thank you so much for tuning into the Zero Experiment. It's wonderful to have you here for this special show. Today we have a very special showcase with you. We are working with an amazing curator. She was named Curator to Watch by Forbes magazine. So very excited to be working with Charlene Stevens, who will be talking to Kevin, our amazing artist, a little bit later on. Our artist for this evening is Kevin Darmanie, who you guys will be introduced to. And hi, Kevin. But to kick off the show, I'm very, very excited to introduce Geoff Burke. So Geoff is a saxophonist. He's worked with a lot of greats in the industry, and he's going to be playing a song to begin the show. So Geoff, if you want to say a few words and take it away.
Sure. This is, per request, a reggae. It's Bob Marley's Waiting in Vain. And it's going to be solo sax, so it'll be interesting. I'll see if I can pull it off. That's it.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much, Geoff.
No problem.
How can people find you online? Do you have an Insta, or where can they learn?
Yeah, Instagram, it's one word, Burke's Works. So BURKES, Burke's Works. And also online, my website, jeffburkemusic.com. Mm-hmm. And if you guys are in New York, next, I think Friday, I'm playing at Bell Rev in Tribeca with the rock band I work with called Strange Magic. So I think we're playing 6 to 10, maybe.
All right. Well, I'll definitely check it out. So thank you so much again. And you'll be playing another set for us to close the show as well. Mm-hmm. But right now, I want to swing it over to Charlene Stevens, who is, as I mentioned before, amazing. She was named the Curator to Watch by Forbes magazine. She will be moderating. She will be hosting. So I'm going to unmute her and let her take over the show. So take it away, Charlene.
Hi, I'm Charlene Stevens, and I am the editor-in-chief of Arcade Project and the director of Arcade Project Curatorial. And this week, I'm curating Rainbow Country for the Zero Experiment with Kevin Darmanie. And I love this work. Kevin Darmanie is a figurative painter that works mostly in watercolor on paper, born in Trinidad and Tobago, and raised in New Jersey. He has exhibited at Paul Robeson Gallery, Rutgers University, the Reginald Ingraham Gallery in California, the Harold B. Lemmerman Gallery at New Jersey City University, the Ground Floor Gallery in Brooklyn, Gallery Faro in Newark, New Jersey, and Ramapo College in New Jersey, and Utah Art Center, among others. So it's a sampling of his exhibitions. There is some incredible work that I wanted to talk to you about, Kevin. Could you unmute yourself? Because I'm going to ask you some questions. I need you to unmute. Oh, unmute. Hi. How you doing?
Well, thank you for the introduction, Charlene. Kevin Darmanie, the artist of the moment, the hour, or whatever. Coming to you from sunny Brooklyn, Bushwick, to be specific. Like Charlene said, I'm a Trinidad and Tobago artist. Grew up in Jersey, specifically East Orange in Newark. I had been an artist in the New York scene for over 20 years, and moved to Brooklyn in October, and here I am.
Well, Kevin, this series, Rainbow Country, I loved it. It was like a graphic novel on the gallery walls. And I remember first walking through and like reading your, and there were just so many parts that resonated. Number one, you have a great sense of humor. And, but also you have, I see this play on stereotypes about Black people, and but there are Caribbean stereotypes, maybe some American ones. And there's a lot of the series revolves around a public swimming pool. And there are a lot of stereotypes about Black people and swimming and pools and stuff like that. Why did you choose the pool as your setting?
So, and let me say before everything, thank you so much for having me do this, Charlene, and thank you to Zero Experiment for putting this together. Thank you, Marina. So I had a studio at Gallery Faro, matter of fact, which I eventually showed at. That was actually one of my very early shows. And there was a public pool, JFK public pool, just up the street from there. So in the summertime, I would take a walk up to the pool. I couldn't swim myself, but I would just go to the pool. There might be an instructor with kids, maybe one or two professional swimmers who were just doing the laps because it's an Olympic side pool. And I would just kind of go in the water and just float, pretty much. And it just gave me all this kind of like spiritual kind of, rationale. Me coming from like a Catholic family, would get into water and, just that the body is made of water and you must be like water and all those things. So I wanted to start and try to take my art. At the time I was doing these kind of blown up, sort of Roy Lichtenstein comic booky type of paintings, put myself as a character in it, but not the Rainbow Country series yet. So I thought I wanted to do that, and at the same time, kind of like address my Caribbean background, which I had never addressed in my artwork before.
Well, that's funny because based on like a Chris Rock joke just implies that all you guys can swim from the Caribbean. But,
it's funny that was actually, and some Trinidadians will disagree with me, of course. But actually, a lot of Trinidadians I knew couldn't swim. Because most of the time you learn how to swim, it's usually at like a public pool or something like that. Now, yeah, sure, there are people who live like close to the water. My mother talked about learning how to swim in the ocean. So, but say my brother, for example, doesn't know how to swim. So a lot of us didn't know. And when I thought about it, just going up to the JFK pool and the size pool and everything that it was, especially in a city like Newark, which is kind of like an underserved community, to have this Olympic-sized pool that has like a rooftop that opens and all that stuff, and just how many people were there. It just got me thinking, like, man, I never saw this growing up. I never saw places like this in the Caribbean. I'm not saying that there aren't, but there certainly wasn't one in like my community. And I was in a pretty okay community. I wasn't like in a poor community or anything like that. So it just made me think about infrastructure. So the storyline, if you will, in Kedar, in the Rainbow Country series, Kedar is pretty much leaving his house and going to a public pool, which is something I never did in the Caribbean, and more so see as kind of like an American phenomenon. So the series really kind of leans on being nostalgic. I'm thinking like an American, but I'm placing myself, I'm imagining I'm in the Caribbean. But I'm doing these sort of like American things. You know?
Okay. And also you have, I noticed that, that you, the familiar love triangle trope in there as well. I remember I called you because you were, if it was Pretty in Pink, you would have been Ducky in this series. And I remember I called you Awkward Island Guy based on the series because it was back when, you know, Issa Rae before Insecure and Awkward Black Girl. But I just, it was, how much of it is autobiographical because you put yourself in these works?
So I'd say that Kedar is kind of like a, it's me, but it's not me. You know, it's something I learned from comics. You might create a character that's completely based on yourself at a given moment, but it's almost like having not so much a twin, but if you had like a clone, that clone would immediately have its own life.
So it would be
have its own experiences separate from you. So that's how I saw Kedar. That Kedar would have his own experiences separate from me.
Okay. So it's like an alter.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Is it like an alter ego? Is it like an alter ego? Yeah. But I love the clone thing. Like you just, you know, splitting off from your, you know, just splitting your DNA off and seeing how it behaves.
Right. Because another part of it too is that I was creating this work about Trinidad. I mean, I left. I came to the United States as like at 13. You know, so I wasn't in a position to talk about Trinidad per se. I'm really just running based on memory and these kind of like nostalgic feelings. I accepted. I said, okay, well, the series was meant to be nostalgic. It's not meant to be critical or anything like that. It's just you're walking through my imagination for a bit. So consequently, Kedar is just that character. So it's me sort of walking through my own imagination of the Caribbean, but sort of looking at the world around and tending to be satirical about some of the things that are happening around me. This being in a world where there's so many different types of people with so many opposing points of view, which at one time the article was, and how you enter this world and you bring information with you to affect this world, but you're simultaneously being affected by it. That's kind of like the other interpretation of the book.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait. So I remember we were talking about a piece with that affecting and affected by. So I'm going to wait. I will let you run with that later when you do the studio tour.
Yeah.
So as far and then you also add collage elements in addition to watercolor, I notice. And how can you talk a little bit about building that up, like adding another dimension?
So before I had gotten into, I'm a self-taught artist, and my introduction into the world of painting and drawing was through comics. I actually completed a graphic novel called Culprit, which I believe is still available on Amazon. So years later, like so many artists, I eventually got into painting and worked in that for a few years. And like so many artists, you change. So at one point I decided I wanted to try to like kind of pick up some of the trope graphic novels and stuff again, because I felt I had known it so well. And as computers came in and everything became digital, some of the old skills of how to, create a comic were being lost. Because an actual comic done in the 60s included a lot of collage. There would be zipper tone, there would be pictures cut out and pasted on top of one another, colors laid in. So, for me, I had started just kind of like visiting that. Now, once I had gone from inks, which was the old way of like coloring and rendering images, to watercolor, I kind of stumbled in by mistake. One piece I'll point out is the first piece that I did in the series. I had done it completely black and white in India ink and hated it, but had to show it. Ever since then, I've made works for shows like, on the heels of once the work came down, I took it back to the studio, and immediately I just cut it up. Figured I'll come up with some way of, reworking it. And that's when I came up with the pool idea and decided to do a spool and start to drop the figures in. And I liked the way that it layered. It allowed me to make changes very quickly or add elements very quickly. And I just felt overall it was more open. It also had this kind of almost three-dimensional aspect to it that allowed maybe later for sculpture. And it gave it something. It took it out of comics. Because as much as I loved it, I really just needed to get away from it. So I just continued doing the collage aspect to it. Now, not all of the pieces are collage. Some of them eventually I stopped collaging and just worked in watercolor. But most of the work is collage. And the idea was to kind of trick the eye with it.
And I'm sorry, and we're going to have to take a little break before. We're at the end of the Q&A for a second and take a little break for to introduce our the charity of the week. Which thank you, Kevin. But we're going to go to the studio tour soon, so we can go deeper. But I did want to introduce. I did want to introduce this week's charity, and we have Mimi Zhu and Keely Davenport with us. And they are from the Young New Yorkers, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their nonprofit.
I don't think we can hear you, Mimi. No. I can go. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure, Keely, please. We get the audio fixed.
All right.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Young New Yorkers? What do you do?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting us and for working with us. Our main goal is to transform the criminal legal system through art and through the voices of young people in New York City. And there's two main things that we do. One is restorative arts diversion programming. So we accept referrals from young people who are court involved, either diverted from their arrest or diverted from family court or criminal court. Most people know Raise the Age went through, which we're celebrating in October. So now we offer programs from 14 to 17 for family court involved and criminal court from 18 to 25. And what our programming allows is for young people to swiftly exit the legal system without incurring lifelong penalties, incarceration, and other adult sanctions. And then the second thing that Young New Yorkers does is it offers a platform for the system-involved people who were referred to us to advocate for themselves and their visions for a transformed legal system. And so we support our graduates beyond their court mandate, and that's the goal at least, through graduate programming and through community programming. And at the end, when you graduate from Young New Yorkers, we do courtroom takeovers, and we design the courtrooms, like these areas that have caused trauma and that have taken lives from people, and we allow the young people who are impacted by that to recreate the courtroom and to display their art. And then we invite all the criminal legal professionals to come and to re-meet these young people beyond their rap sheet and beyond their criminal charges, and by their artwork instead. And so there's a few different programs. There's 4-week, 1 day, 8-week, 4 and 8-week, and in a courtroom exhibition, and we invite people in and are involved with community partners. 1 day, we invite young people who graduate to bring their art back on their second court appearance and show it from there. And yeah, so that's sort of the basis of our programming and what we do and our goals. And then Mimi, I'm not sure, is your sound working? I can't hear you. Oh, it actually says you're muted. Yeah. No.
No.
Do you have headphones in? I think someone's suggesting. Yeah.
Now her volume's off. Now she's muted. Should I just try to unmute one more time, Mimi? Okay. Can you say something? Let's see if you can. No, your audio is, something's wrong.
Try to disconnect the earbuds and then go through the computer. Sometimes that works for me.
And Mimi, she runs our summer programming. We're working with the Department of Probation. Most people heard this, but there's New York generally hires around 65,000 young people for jobs throughout the summer. And that program was canceled due to COVID. And so one of the things that we're doing this summer is trying to fill that gap. So we're hiring, I think, 15 young people, and we're offering summer programs to young people via Zoom to be involved and to join a cohort. So these are not criminal legal involved young people, but we're serving the neighborhoods where we often get referrals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're going to have to move to, I'm really happy to help support this cause. Yeah, everybody needs a chance in life, and one little mistake, shouldn't end it all. So I really support what you do. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Keely. Kevin, we're going to come back to you. So you might want to, turn your mic back on or something. Or can I do that? No. So we're going to go to the studio tour. That's the next section, and the series we're showing is Rainbow Country, which is a series of mixed media works completed between 2009 and 2012, incorporating the tropes of graphic novels to re-examine Caribbean attitude, social critique, and self-introspection. And the series analyzes issues that relate to Kevin's life in America, with opinions based on his formative years in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm looking forward to seeing the series again.
Well, I'll add I guess a preface about the series. So I started this series before I take you guys on the tour. I have 10 works hanging here. So I started this series in part because I had a little bit of a cultural shock once I started to get amongst a lot of other arts, get into the arts community. And that's that I would, coming from Trinidad, where I knew Rastas and stuff like that growing up, and saw the way they did things and stuff, and how familiar they were with my family members, neighborhoods, and what my grandmother would say, and all that stuff. That when I came here and I ran into a lot of young white college kids who listened to roots reggae and had the entire catalog of cultures, albums, and knew all the songs and smoked weed to it and stuff like that. I just thought that was the strangest thing. Because I had just never seen it. Of course I knew reggae music went all over the world and people were going to interact with and accept it, but it was just them, and the closest thing they had to a Rasta around was me. So I felt but I also felt that they had some misunderstandings about what the movement was about. it sort of had become this kind of peace and love movement. Whereas in Trinidad, Rastafarianism was very rebellious, very divisive. So I just wanted to kind of, in a tongue-in-cheek way, explore that, what it meant to me. I'll say that I'm a Rasta in my consciousness. I'm not practicing Rasta in the sense of where I obey the religious tenets and stuff like that. But in terms of post-colonial resistance, I'm all for it. I think at this point a lot of us are. So I guess we can take this on. So let me just pull you guys over here. Give me 1 second. Work out the technical aspect of this. That's the top of my head. Come on, phone. Oh, there we go. Hi, can you guys see? Hello?
Yeah, we can see.
I didn't have my mic on. I'm like, yes, saying it to no one.
I totally was like, where's that flip around button again? It's like, forgot. Is that better? Is it long? Better long or short?
If you move over to the left a little bit, you'll be fully in front of it.
Wait,
Like
my left or your
Yep, there you no. There you go. There you go. We're good.
Okay. All right. So this is the series I have set up here. I'm not actually in my studio because my studio is filled with records and all sorts of stuff. But they were kind enough here at Power Space to let me use an empty studio that they have a bit. And it's small, yes. So let's see. So the works aren't necessarily, they sort of have a sequential order, but they're designed to stand alone. But I usually think of some of these as the beginning. So the storyline pretty much is that the main character here, Kedar, which I don't know if you guys can see, that's me, but not me, is leaving his home here to make his way to the pool. So this is one of the, when I did the series, I actually started technically from the end and then went back sort of, or jumped around as I made what I felt I needed in order to sort of complete the narrative. So this was actually done in 2012. The series was done between 2009 to 2012, so that's the title. This piece has some of the collage elements in it. For example, my finger's in it. For example, Kedar's figure is a standalone part of it that's attached to the background. The walls here are also layered on top of whatever that background was, including the floor. I think that's it. And again, it's watercolor ink. First rendered in ink, and then I go over it in watercolor. So moving from that piece, Kedar then has these little adventures, so to speak. He interacts with these different archetypes. Here, and I'm trying to get the glare out of it, sorry. Here, I kind of go into, here's the Kedar figure, palm tree, and the houses, which I would research on Google, like old photographs. Of course, you can't depict the Caribbean without those bricks. And you have this mix of different characters that you might see in the Rasta movement, or at least people with dreads. There is, of course, Kedar is the kind of Bob Marley archetype who's, preaching the word. Come on, brothers, let's get it together. And then you have the one brother who's still with it, but kind of out of it or exhausted, which is what usually happens with resistance movements. You have the other dread here who's actually cutting his locks. You might see some of it on the ground here. You have the kind of like hip hop iteration of the movement in terms of cats with dreads, with track pants, and, where I sometimes wonder if they have any idea whatsoever. And then you have like the kind of cleaned up brother, which, people probably look at me and think I'm this guy, in his cool shorts and stuff. And then you have the young person in a very, talk about tropes of comics, right? Way who's just, being influenced in it. And and this one actually doesn't have any collage elements in it. But what happened after a while, after working in the collage, is that I started to take an interest in kind of trying to make it look as though it had been. Because I just like the flatness of it. Come down to this piece here, which is called Legalized Coca-Cola. Here is where I kind of poke fun of some of my hipster college friends who, here, so what's happening here is start to see the exception of the beach balls, which the beach balls, I use them to represent just different things at different points in the series. Here it's fun, and that beach balls are kind of like, they're literally filled with hot air, which is like a commentary on their substance. And that, the Kedar character is being completely inundated by it, by these college kids who went to Harvard and Yale. So this is sort of the best of the best, who are trained in marketing, and that they may represent like a company like, say, Coca-Cola, which has no nutritional value, Coca-Cola. Again, you have the brickwork and architecture, kind of sort of vernacular architecture that you find on a local street in the Caribbean. For this house, actually, I had to Google my grandfather's house, which that itself was interesting for that time, being able to go on Google Earth and actually find the house. And yeah, that's sort of what's going on with that. Feel free to ask any questions if you have, Charlene, since you've been looking at the series.
Well, I'm just going to let you go through the just the tour, and then we're going to go to another Q&A after the tour. So the Q&A is going to happen soon.
Okay, no problem. Let me know if I need to pick up the pace or not. Because I can about this work.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, we are a little strapped for time, but yeah, you're doing great. And I'm very curious about this one.
So this one I just posted. This one is The Sailor. This was done in 2011. And the piece is, it is a collage piece. So in the Caribbean, a lot of the islands at one point, especially in the English-speaking part of the Caribbean, were occupied by the U.S., where the U.S. had pretty much set up bases there. And what had happened was you had these American GIs who went out into society, looking for a good time. They had money. A lot of the islands were poor, but a lot of those islands also sort of simultaneously got their independence at the same time. Like Trinidad and Jamaica, for example, both got their independence in, was it 1950? Don't crucify me if I got that wrong. But it's been 30 years. So what happened was Trinidad was under British rule. And then when the Americans came, the Americans tend to be more liberal than the British. Now, you had the same racism, yes, but the British were like, you do not consort with people of the lower class, versus the Americans who were like, sure, just don't bring them back to the U.S. or get married to them. So what happened was that you then had like these industries of prostitution, sex work, clubs, music, all happened simultaneously. And the friction between the British and English allowed for Trinidad to be able to kind of figure out what a Trinidadian was post-independence. That's the way they look at it anyway. So I have this sailor in the beginning, in the center, and these black women on the outside. There's a calypso song by Sparrow where he goes, Gina and Dinah, Lolita and Clementina, who are like, women trying to, who are willing to dance for money, as Robert Mitchum put it. And this then led to a browning of the islands because of the mixture.
So as I see the skin tones getting lighter as it goes outward.
Exactly.
I think we're only going to have time for like 2 more works. Or you could walk us through. But let's get a look at like everything in this installation. But as far as what we can stop with, it'll probably be 2 more.
Okay.
Which I really want to talk about. My fave.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the early pieces, one of the first pieces, Primordial Soup Swimmers. I had believed in, and still do, in a sort of a confessional through the artwork. I believed that to be an artist was to confess how you felt about whatever. So this was one of those pieces where I'm doing this testimonial about I did it as an artist, I did it, and it went as deep as my neck. You could probably view this online to see the entire piece. I'll come up here talking about Sparrow. This piece is called The Two Blue Balls. For obvious reasons. Calypso music often have a lot of like sexual innuendo and stuff like that in it, so there's a calypso in it. This piece is collaged together, the kites and everything up there. There's a what they would call a Roger Bless, which is a figure out of kind of Caribbean folklore. She has the one cloved hoof and a cell phone, by the way. And just like little salutes to Carnival and just the color and vibrance of the Caribbean. For some reason, I put the Chase Bank ball in there. And, and my buddy Nugent would say, you can't have a picture of the Caribbean without like a chicken, running through it. Chicken. And the phrase says, the Yankees gone and Sparrow take over now. This is from the song Gina Dinah.
Okay. And
so here's one of the popular pieces in the series.
Oh, is this the one? Can you lower? I only see the top. Back up a little bit. I want to see the whole thing real quick. Okay. That's a good that's a good view.
Mm-hmm. Trying to fight the glare. So this is Horoscope Woman. This actually comes in 2 parts. So even though I wouldn't call it a diptych, this is Horoscope Woman lyrics record. It's based on the song Horoscope, St. Thomas Women or Horoscope Women by Mighty Shadow. In it, and I'll come down here for a second so that you understand. Horoscope lyrics, which is obviously a salute. I have actually did a few pieces. Of a record. Maybe never. I have a personal joke because I always have people who ask me what my horoscope. Were you born in Mars? I'm sorry. Are you Sagittarius? There are plenty stars and St. Thomas Women. Their planet must blend with you before you can get us through. It's a story. Do we have time? Are we running out of time?
Let's look at one more. That tall one.
Yeah.
Yes, and I need you to stand back a little so we can take it all in, like what the scale is. And you were talking about when you affect something and something affects you at the same time and we were
yeah. So this is actually the first piece I did in the series. This is a piece that I had done in black and white then like, and then cut up and collage together. So this is a series that gave birth to the entire thing. And in this, myself, the character Kadar, is entering this pool of these multitude of personalities. Again, it's lodged together, and it's pretty much to me waxing on entering into a society where I'm both influencing it and being influenced by it. So I sort of pollute water. I call this piece "Dirty Water."
I think you had a line we were talking last night. You know, the water. You pollute the water. The person pollutes the water, and the water pollutes them as well. Like it's like a reciprocal thing. Hello.
Into a society, you know, or you bring your right, but at the same time, influenced by that group. So this is what I mean by water.
Okay.
Your influence could be positive and negative. And same for how you're affected by the society. So I have all of these, you talk about some of the kind of like Black stereotypes and stuff. So this is kind of like my opportunity to play with some of them. They're all eating in the pool. So there's this consumption thing. And it's all kind of like, comical and satirical. There's one person drowning. There's the kind of prototypical Black man eating watermelon. Someone had commented about flat blackness that you find in now.
Yeah, we're going to take that to the Q&A. But can we just take one more look because we have to end the studio. I'm sorry, we have to end the studio tour. I never knew how quickly this time goes. But can you back up? Let's take one look at the installation, and we're going to open. We're going to open it up to questions from the audience now.
Okay.
I'm just going to step in and say that if anyone has a question, you can like raise your hand virtually, or you can message either myself or Charlene, and I will unmute you guys, and then you can like interact with Kevin. So I see that we actually have Sebastian or Sebi who has a question. I'm just going to unmute you.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for quite a wonderful tour and such wonderful work. As a Jamaican American myself, I have to say I really appreciate seeing those Caribbean-style stone walls. Although, one point of reference, our Independence Day is actually 1962.
Okay, thank you. I thought so, 1962.
Yeah, all within that same time, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the question I did have was, I was wondering if your work, I see really much this idea of course, identity, especially Caribbean identity versus American identity. And I wonder if any of your work goes and explores the ideas of code switching and that presentation and expression of one's own identity, depending on the cultural peoples that they're mixing with, such as your Caribbean identity versus your American identity versus your, like when you're dealing with someone who's Black versus someone who's white. Does that element of code switching ever play a role in your work?
I feel like that's such an aspect of being a Caribbean person. Once you, as Frantz Fanon said, you become Black when you get off the plane in Europe. You leave the Caribbean, a Caribbean person, and then you become Black when you get off the plane. So you immediately go into this code switching. At first, you try to just sort of be comfortable.
Kevin? Kevin, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Oh, I think it's a finger replacement. I'm sorry. So I was saying something about Frantz Fanon. Did you hear that?
Yes, it got cut off as soon as you were talking about Francois Fanon.
Oh, that's probably my finger. Yeah, so pretty much when you when you land in your European country, that's when you become a Black person. So I feel like we sort of organically engage in code switching, because at first you try to be comfortable in your skin because that's what you know. And then later you start to sort of become part of the struggle, if you will. You feel guilted into becoming part of the struggle. At the same time, I try to remember what it was like to wake up in Trinidad and just be Kevin. So I feel like my work represents some of that. There are some pieces, this is not the scope of all the pieces. This isn't even half of what I had done for the show. But there's some pieces where I get pretty much into the language in terms of like it's, you know, how it's broken up and it's made up of all these different influences, French, English, Spanish, you know, that we are kind of like, I always describe the Caribbean as a melting pot, but a melting pot where all the elements actually melted, you know? So we're not just made up of just African influence, we're a host of things.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you.
That's a good question.
Thank you. I'm unfortunately gonna run, but thank you so much for a wonderful studio tour. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Bye, Sebastian. Thank you.
Hi, Sevi.
Bye.
I have one more question from Christian. So I'm just going to unmute him now. Christian, are you there?
Hello, everyone. How are you? Charlene, I just want to say you're doing an amazing job so far.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to know, how long does it take to do an art piece? Kevin, that's for you.
So it's more about, I don't know, I get caught up in my head sometimes. So I'll start a piece, and even if I got it done in a day, I usually walk away from it and then come back to it. You know, let it sit for a week or so, and then come back to it and tinker with it. Some of these pieces, like part of the collage concept was that if I wanted to change something, well, I just cut it out and paste something else on top of it. So some of the pieces have been revisited. But generally, it would usually take me about, I would usually put aside about a week to work on it. I'd say about it, except, of course, a piece like the two blue balls was much more involved. And I remember laying down that green and hating it because I think I tried to get the texture of grass differently or something. So then I ended up changing it. And then I remember changing the trees in the back, which they too are like, there are actually a number of leaves actually put together to build up the background.
Do we have any more questions?
Does anyone else have any more questions? You can ask Kevin a question, Charlene, you can ask the charity, or even Geoff. So just
oh, Vicky. I see you, Vicky.
I was like, no. All right. No, I love this work. I love your work. And so I'm curious now, what themes you're working with now, that because you're still, you know, in transport, I suppose, and morphine and getting influenced and influencing.
So I tend to work in series. I usually have an idea, and then I gotta watch my finger here. And then like I work on it, I get to the end, what I feel is the end of the idea, and then I move on to something else. So since this series, I had gone back to painting for a bit, and then some loose works, and now I'm sort of doing watercolor figures again, which is similar to this. But that work is, I'm taking on Black sexuality and, you know, and desire, which I feel is a subject that unfortunately has become taboo. So you can preview some of that work on my website, kevindarmanie.com, to get an idea of it. Right now, I'm behind this work, and I'll get to that later, because I wouldn't want to confuse the viewer. But yeah, Black sexuality is sort of what I'm thinking about right now, especially as told through digital media.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've seen a couple and I love them. But back to Rainbow Country, Someone's mic is interfering. And someone's there. Okay, so I see one. I think we have time for one more question. And Jeffrey Jameson asked if you could talk about the various paints that you've been that you're using in these pieces.
Various paints?
Yes.
Oh, so they're pretty much all just watercolor and ink, and India ink. I think I recall attempting to use gouache on one of them, but the gouache was just too bold. So then I just stuck with watercolor. So yeah, watercolor, India ink, and collage.
Okay. And I had one quick thing, because I wanted, if you notice on the dirty water, I love how you did a full variation of skin tones, because there are so many shades of black, and that it wasn't just one basic shade of black going through the whole series, and you you recognize and showed in your work that black comes in so many different colors. Like you have like the darkest dark to the lightest light skin light, and everything in between. And I love that realistic, that realistic rendering of our people. I love seeing my people done by my people, and having, because you were taking a look at yourself in order to there's something about, black subjectivity, is a very honest black subjectivity. You even able to laugh at yourself, which I love. So we are going, and I hate, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I think we have like 4 minutes of this entire talk left. Is there anything you want to close with, Kevin?
Okay.
No, we have 5 minutes that, we need to go back to the music, but if you wanted to sign off, this is the time. Kevin?
Well, I would just like to, I guess I should switch around now.
Yeah, we want to see you. Hey! You see the sun's set on me, but we're moving on me. Thank you so much for bringing us into your studio, for introducing us to your work, for allowing us to go into in depth on a couple of issues, on a couple of points, and everybody, this exhibition, the opening's today. It goes for a week. The price list is on the site, correct, Marina? And there's an opportunity to collect Kevin's work. I've been in love with his work for years. I hope you are too. And we are going to now go back to Geoff, and he is going to take us home, I guess.
Thanks, Charlene.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining the call. Charlene, you did such an amazing job. Thank you, Kevin.
And thank you for inviting me to curate this week. It's been an amazing experience working with you, and you, Kevin, of course.
Well, let me just take this opportunity really quickly to say congratulations, Charlene, on all of this, all of the buzz and all of the interesting coverage you've been getting since taking this brave effort to launch a gallery in the time of COVID-19. I'm really happy to be a part of this. As long as we can make everyone feel good.
Yeah,
I'm
all about spreading that joy. Geoff?
This is What a Wonderful World, made famous by Louis Armstrong. Thank you, everyone. Kevin, I love your work. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you, Geoff.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
I want to clap with volume. Thank you.
Gotta unmute everything.
So thank you all of you for being here. It was wonderful to spend the evening with you, and have a great evening, everyone. I hope to see you next week.
Fun opening. I'll see you next week.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.